My friends thought I was broke. My co-workers thought I was struggling. Nobody knew I was secretly destroying $47,000 in debt with 7 ridiculous habits. The average American household carries $104,215 in total debt. According to Experian data from late 2025, that number includes mortgages, auto loans, student loans, personal loans, and the ever-growing mountain of credit card balances. Credit card debt alone hit $1.21 trillion across the country. The average balance per cardholder sits at $6,580. Federal Reserve data shows total U.S. household debt crossed $18.04 trillion, a number so large it stops meaning anything to most people. Here's what it means in practical terms. The average American spends $1,583 monthly on debt payments. That's $19,000 per year going to banks and lenders before a single dollar goes toward groceries, utilities, or anything resembling actual life. I'm Jake. I was that average. Actually, I was worse than average. I carried $47,000 in combined debt across credit cards, a car loan, and leftover student loans. My minimum payments ate $1,100 every month. Interest charges added roughly $380 monthly on top. I was paying $1,480 per month for the privilege of having spent money in the past. What got me out wasn't a windfall, wasn't a massive salary jump, wasn't cryptocurrency or some side hustle that magically printed cash. It was 7 habits that looked genuinely stupid to almost everyone watching. Friends thought I was being extreme. Family thought I was going through something. Co-workers assumed I was struggling. I wasn't struggling. I was getting free. This video covers the 7 habits that eliminated $47,000 in debt over 26 months. None of them are sophisticated. All of them require doing things that look embarrassing, inconvenient, or borderline ridiculous to outside observers. The people who judged these habits are still making minimum payments. The math doesn't care about appearances. Before we get into the habits, quick thing. If you're carrying any kind of debt, credit cards, car loans, student loans, this channel was built for you. Subscribe now so every video I post lands directly in your feed. The average American spends $219 per month on subscription services according to C+R research. Most people underestimate their actual number by 2.5 times. They think they're spending $86. They're actually spending $219. I did the audit. My number was $287 monthly. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, Amazon Prime, a gym membership I use twice a month, a meal kit service, 2 news subscriptions, cloud storage, an app I forgot I downloaded, and a software tool from a project I abandoned 8 months earlier. 12 subscriptions bleeding $287 every 30 days without requiring a single conscious decision from me. I cancelled all of them, every single one, not most. All. The first 2 weeks feel like withdrawal. You reach for something that isn't there. Then something shifts. You rediscover free podcasts, library, streaming, books you already own. You realize the vast majority of subscription spending was purchasing convenience, not necessity. After 30 days, I added back exactly 2 services, Netflix at the basic tier and Spotify. Total monthly cost went from $287 to $24. The remaining $263 went directly to debt payments. That $263 monthly redirected to my highest interest credit card eliminated $3,156 annually in principal, plus the compounding interest savings. One stupid-looking habit, one afternoon of clicking cancel buttons, thousands of dollars recovered. The embarrassing part? Telling people you don't have streaming services feels like admitting you can't afford them. The reality is the opposite. You can't afford to keep them when you're carrying 5 figures of high-interest debt. The subscription economy is designed to feel painless. That's exactly what makes it dangerous. Most people will watch this video, agree with everything, and change nothing. Don't be most people. Hit subscribe so this channel keeps showing up in your feed and keeps you accountable. This next one earned me the most ridicule. In a world of tap-to-pay and digital wallets, I started carrying labeled envelopes of physical cash, groceries, gas, entertainment, personal spending. Each envelope held a fixed amount at the start of each pay period. When the envelope was empty, spending in that category stopped. No exceptions, no borrowing from other envelopes. The psychology behind this is documented. MIT researchers found that people spend 12 to 18% more when paying with credit cards compared to cash. The physical pain of handing over cash activates the same neural pathways as actual physical discomfort. Swiping a card doesn't trigger that response. Paying with plastic is psychologically painless. That's why credit card companies prefer it. That's why retailers prefer it. And that's why it's terrible for anyone trying to eliminate debt. My grocery spending dropped from $680 monthly to $440 within the first month of using cash envelopes. I didn't change what I ate. I changed how it felt to pay for it. Picking up that unnecessary $8 item stopped being automatic when I could physically see the envelope getting thinner. Total spending across all envelope categories dropped roughly 22% in the first 3 months. That's not discipline. That's physics. The friction of physical payment naturally reduces consumption. The stupid-looking part is obvious. You're standing in a checkout line pulling cash from a labeled envelope while everyone behind you taps their phone and moves on. The cashier looks at you like you've time-traveled. Your friends assume you've joined some kind of financial cult. Let them assume. The $340 monthly reduction in spending went straight to debt. That's $4,080 per year accelerating payoff, while everyone with their sleek digital wallets continues accumulating balances they'll pay interest on for decades. Then I started selling things until my house looked suspiciously empty. I sold my second television. I sold gaming consoles I played maybe twice a month. I sold furniture I didn't actively use daily. I sold clothes I hadn't worn in 6 months. I sold kitchen appliances that did one specific thing I could accomplish with a basic pot or pan. I sold books I'd already read and wasn't going to read again. Over 3 months, I sold 74 items across Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, and Craigslist. Total revenue was $4,830. Not life-changing money in isolation, but that $4,830 went directly against my highest interest credit card balance, eliminating months of payments. The more important effect was psychological. Each item removed reduced the desire to accumulate more things. Research from UCLA's Center on Everyday Lives and Families found that higher household density of objects correlates directly with elevated cortisol levels. More stuff literally causes more stress. My apartment looked sparse. Visitors noticed. The living room had a couch, a coffee table, and one TV. Closets had gaps where things used to be. Multiple people asked if I was moving. I wasn't moving. I was shedding the physical evidence of spending habits that created the debt in the first place. The selling process teaches something valuable. Items you paid $200 for sell for $30. Items you paid $500 for sell for $80. Experiencing that loss firsthand changes how you evaluate future purchases. Every potential buy gets filtered through the question of what would this sell for in 6 months? The answer is almost always a fraction of the purchase price. That realization alone prevents future spending mistakes. Quick question before we move on. What's the first thing you'd sell if you started today? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Next up, the 72-hour rule for every non-essential purchase. Impulse buying accounts for between 40 and 80% of all purchases according to research compiled by Slick Deals. The average American makes $314 in impulse purchases monthly. That's $3,768 annually on things that weren't planned, weren't budgeted, and often weren't needed. The 72-hour rule is brutally simple. Before buying anything non-essential, write it down and wait 72 hours. If you still want it after 3 full days, buy it. If you've forgotten about it or the desire has faded, skip it. I tracked this for 6 months. Out of every 10 items I put on the 72-hour list, I actually purchased 2 to 3 after the waiting period expired. The other 7 to 8 items? Forgotten completely. The desire evaporated once the initial dopamine spike of wanting something passed. The neuroscience backs this up. Impulse purchasing activates the brain's reward center. The anticipation of acquiring something produces dopamine. Actual ownership rarely sustains that feeling. By inserting a 72-hour delay, you separate the dopamine spike from the purchasing decision. By the time the waiting period ends, the neurochemical motivation has dissipated. This reduced my discretionary spending by approximately $220 monthly. Not through willpower, not through deprivation, simply through delay. The things I truly wanted and valued still got purchased. The things driven by momentary impulse quietly disappeared from the list. The stupid-looking part. You're at a store with friends and something catches your eye. Instead of buying it, you pull out your phone and add it to a note. Your friends buy things immediately. You write things down like you're maintaining a shopping diary. It looks obsessive, it looks unnecessarily complicated for a $25 item, but those $25 items add up to $3,768 annually when you stop tracking them. The diary works, the impulse doesn't. Then came the hardest one. I told people I was on a spending freeze. This was 90% social strategy and 10% financial strategy. The hardest part of aggressive debt payoff isn't the math. The hardest part is navigating social situations designed around spending. Dinner invitations, weekend trips, birthday celebrations, at expensive restaurants, happy hours, concert tickets. The social calendar is essentially a spending calendar, and declining invitations without explanation makes you the antisocial friend who never comes out. The alternative: be completely transparent. Tell people you're on a spending freeze. Use those exact words, not broke, not struggling, not can't afford it. On a spending freeze. The framing matters. A spending freeze sounds intentional and temporary. It sounds like a project, not a crisis. People respond to it with surprising respect when you frame it as a deliberate choice rather than a financial limitation. I told my close circle in month 1. The conversations were awkward for approximately 90 seconds. Then they adapted. Some friends started suggesting free activities, others offered to host dinners instead of going out. A few disappeared, which itself was informative about what held those friendships together. My social spending dropped from approximately $450 monthly to under $80. Instead of restaurants, we did potlucks. Instead of bars, we had people over. Instead of paid activities, we found free local events and hiking trails. The $370 monthly difference went to debt. That's $4,440 annually. This one looks stupid because vulnerability looks stupid in a culture that prizes financial confidence. Admitting you're aggressively paying off debt feels like admitting failure. It isn't. It's the first step toward the kind of financial stability that most people pretend they already have. After the social spending was under control, I automated every payment to the point of boredom. Automation sounds like a productivity tip, not a debt elimination habit. But the structure of automated payments is what turns good intentions into mathematical certainty. Most people approach debt with motivation. They make a big payment after watching an inspirational video. They throw extra money at balances when they feel energized. Then motivation fades. The extra payments stop. Minimum payments resume. Debt lingers for years. I set up automatic payments that exceeded minimums on every debt. The amounts were calculated precisely. After all essential bills and cash envelope allocations, every remaining dollar was automatically distributed across debts using the avalanche method, highest interest rate first. The automation meant I never made a conscious decision to pay extra. It happened without my involvement. The money moved before I could consider spending it elsewhere. Behavioral economists call this a commitment device, a structural choice made once that eliminates repeated decision-making. My system worked like this. Paycheck deposits Friday, Saturday morning, automatic transfers hit savings, debt payments, and bill accounts. By Saturday afternoon, my checking account showed only the cash envelope amount. Everything else was already deployed. This looks boring because it is boring. There's no dramatic moment of writing a big check, no emotional satisfaction of manually pressing a payment button. The excitement is completely absent, and that's exactly the point. Debt elimination shouldn't depend on excitement, it should depend on systems. Over 26 months, the automated system never missed a payment and never reduced a payment. It just ran. The debt just shrank. The math just worked. Next video, I'm breaking down exactly how to set up an automated debt payoff system, step by step. The exact setup I used to kill $47,000 in 26 months. Subscribe so you don't miss it. The last habit is the one that tied everything together. I tracked every single dollar. Like a paranoid accountant, I recorded every transaction, every coffee, every parking meter, every vending machine purchase. Every dollar that left my possession in any form got logged in a spreadsheet within 24 hours. This sounds obsessive because it is obsessive, and it works precisely because of that obsession. Research from the Financial Health Network shows that people who actively track spending are 2 to 3 times more likely to report feeling in control of their finances compared to non-trackers. A study from the Journal of Financial Planning found that detailed expense tracking correlates with 15 to 20% reduction in discretionary spending, even without any conscious effort to reduce. The mere act of recording creates accountability. You can't lie to a spreadsheet. You can convince yourself that you only spent a little on eating out this month. You cannot convince a column of numbers that totals $340 when your budget was $150. My tracking revealed patterns I never would have noticed. I was spending $67 monthly on convenience store purchases, not planned stops, just grabbing things when I happened to be near one. I was spending $45 monthly on app purchases and in-app transactions. Small amounts that individually seemed meaningless but accumulated into real money. The first month of tracking is humbling. People consistently underestimate how much they spend by 25 to 35%. The tracking closes that gap with uncomfortable precision. After 3 months, my spending naturally decreased by approximately 18% without any additional rules or restrictions. The awareness alone changed behavior. Knowing I'd have to log a purchase made me pause before making it. That micro pause was often enough to prevent unnecessary transactions. The stupid-looking part is real. You're at lunch with co-workers and immediately after paying, you open your phone to log $14.50 in a spreadsheet. People notice, people comment, you become the person who tracks everything. It feels extreme and neurotic and unnecessary for someone who isn't running a business. But the $47,000 in debt was the result of not tracking. The freedom from that debt was the result of tracking everything. The neurotic behavior produced the non-neurotic outcome. Financial calm came from financial obsession. So here's the combined math of looking stupid. These 7 habits operating simultaneously produced the following monthly impact during my 26-month debt elimination. Subscription cancellation redirected $263 monthly. Cash envelopes reduced spending by $340 monthly. Selling possessions generated an average of $186 monthly. The 72-hour rule saved approximately $220 monthly. The spending freeze recovered $370 monthly. Automated overpayments ensured every dollar hit debt immediately. Expense tracking reduced spending by an additional $150 monthly. Combined monthly acceleration beyond minimum payments was approximately $1,529. Applied against $47,000 in debt with interest rates ranging from 6.8% to 22.99%, the total payoff timeline compressed from an estimated 9+ years of minimum payments to 26 months. The interest saved was approximately $31,000, not the principal, the interest alone. Over 9 years of minimum payments, I would have paid $31,000 in pure interest charges, money generating zero value, money going directly to lenders for the service of letting me borrow money I shouldn't have borrowed. Instead, that $31,000 stayed in my pocket. The 26 months of looking stupid brought back nearly a decade of financial freedom. Nobody wants to hear that getting out of debt requires looking weird. The financial content that performs well online involves clean budgeting templates, aesthetic savings challenges, and the implication that organization alone solves the problem. Organization helps. But organization without behavioral change is a filing system for failure. The habits that actually eliminate debt require friction, visibility, and social discomfort. Friction from cash payments, delays, and tracking. Visibility from empty shelves, labeled envelopes, and public spending freezes. Social discomfort from being the person who does things differently in a culture that rewards conformity in consumption. According to Northwestern Mutual's planning study, 35% of Americans say debt is their #1 source of financial stress. Debt stress affects sleep, relationships, productivity, and mental health. The American Psychological Association consistently ranks money as a top stressor, and debt is the sharpest edge of that stress. The 7 habits in this video aren't comfortable. They weren't designed to be comfortable. They were designed to work. Comfort is what created the debt. Discomfort is what eliminates it. 26 months of looking stupid, then years of living free. The people who judged the envelopes are still swiping cards. The people who thought the tracking was obsessive are still wondering where their money went. The people who stopped inviting me out are still living paycheck to paycheck at incomes that should have made them wealthy. The habits look stupid from the outside. From the inside, they look like math. And math doesn't care how it looks. Pick the stupid-looking path. Your debt doesn't care about your image. 26 months. That's all it took. The only question is whether you'll spend those 26 months looking cool and staying broke, or looking stupid and getting free. The math has already made its recommendation. And if you want more of it, real numbers, real strategies, no fluff, subscribe to this channel. I'll see you in the next video. Stay stupid looking, stay debt free.